And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to round 12 of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series season for 2020, and now at this point, 2021. Coming to you tonight from the virtual Silverstone circuit, courtesy of about, 2008. This is a bit of a retro night we're having. We're running the older version of the circuit for multiple reasons, but partially because it's a lot cheaper than the new version, and partially because I think it's kind of a nice, fun throwback, and the old layout has always been a lot of fun, so I figured, what is the harm in going back to an old classic? Tonight, in addition to myself in the booth, for the first time all season, we have a full-time co-commentator. Tonight, a fellow driver of the series, or at least for most of the season to this point, Mr. Jack Hillier. He's making his debut tonight, and it'll be a pleasure to have his voice in the booth. There is both of our portraits, but just for a moment, before we get going to tonight's events and we get into qualifying and the championship points, I will let Jack introduce himself. So, Jack, you want to talk about your past experience in racing and what you're looking forward to in tonight's race?
Yeah, thank you, Marshall. So this is my first broadcast in this series. I'm hoping the race goes smoothly and cleanly. Hopefully there's some good battles. And from my racing history, is starting this year up in Hamilton, karting. Awesome.
Yeah, getting his start the same way that I did, or I guess where I still am. I still run the rookie series as well, so it'll be great to see you there. But for now, yeah, you're getting to call the race alongside me for tonight. And, well, we got a few things to go into before we get to tonight's racing festivities, or at least the real thing. We got 2 minutes to go before qualifying begins, as usual. So before then, let's first show the track map for tonight's race. There is the Silverstone circuit, or at least the older version that we are running tonight. The newer version of the circuit kind of rejigged things. The straightaway from corners 10 to 11 there was repurposed into being the front stretch in the current version of the track. So if you watch a current F1 race, or at least this coming season at the Silverstone circuit, that is the start-finish straight you will see. But for now, we use the straightaway from between Woodcott and Copse, and then into Maggots and Beckett's in turns 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. One of the most famous corner sections in all of racing, and certainly one of the most fun. I mean, the left-right-handers there, they're super technical, require lots of downshifting, but they are so much fun, and it really separates the best from the rest in terms of technical ability as a race car driver. They're such a great set of corners, and really what makes Silverstone special. And for the rest of the lap, you got those high-speed straights that kind of categorize what a lot of Silverstone is. So many passing opportunities here, but the Hangar Straight, probably the most famous. You'll see plenty of passing opportunities in there, I guarantee you, tonight. Then down to the seventh turn there, Stowe, that right-hander, with lots of opportunities for passing as well. Definitely enough space for two drivers to go side by side. That 8-9 chicane section that can have its own passing opportunities in its own right, but it's really tough to get the car around those turns. And the rest of the circuit through very unique sections of track. Lots of ups and downs here, lots of vertical ascensions and descensions. So it's a really fun track. Silverstone has got a lot of character, and it's one that I'm really glad we were able to come to this season. But before we get into your official start to qualifying tonight, we're going to first pull all these graphics down. Sometimes you forget to take the test graphics down, and tonight just happens to be one of those nights. But first we have to go over your point standings coming into tonight's event at Silverstone. As all of you who have watched the rest of the season will know, we have two separate point standings here in the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series, or at least two that we show. The first ones we got to show are the overall points to this point, these being the points from every race combined in terms of just total points scored over the season. So this does not take into account the two drop races that we have in our championship in order to allow drivers who may miss a race here and there for karting purposes, or just that happen to be busy with some other commitment, means they can make it up in the championship and they aren't instantly eliminated. So there are the points. Logan Pacza, your points leader, just short of 500 points with 498. Andrew Bedrossian in second with 427. 336 for Max Preston. 334 for Trevor Anderson. 313 for Carl Dronke, and so forth and so on from there. So you can see the rest of the point standings. Then into the next part of the standings, we got to go to your proper points. These are the drop race points, so including the two worst races for every driver in terms of points removed from their points tally. And that in turn gives us these points. So these are the points that'll determine our champion for this season. So they're a little bit more accurate, so be sure to use these when trying to figure out where your favorite driver is. Logan Pacza is still your champion in this board with 442 points. 387 for Andrew Bedrossian, 336 for Max Preston, 334 for Trevor Anderson, and Carl Dronke once again rounds out the top five. But Tim Salvatore not too far behind there from that fifth spot. So great battle for the championship between Pacza and Bedrossian. Preston and Anderson will be battling for third in the title, which does come with prize money as a result of finishing as the final podium spot. And down the calendar, as you can see, some great battles through the midfield, anywhere from Tanner Dignard all the way up to even a guy like David Pacza there. So 7th to 12th, any of those positions are in play for tonight. But let's pull that down. We got to get a little bit prepared for qualifying, but still plenty of time to go before we are officially set to get some laps down. We got to wait for the drivers to get all the way around the track. So we're momentarily going to do a bit of an onboard lap for a moment with Andrew Bedrossian. We'll go from his perspective and maybe talk about some of your race winners this season in just a moment. But first, here is a quick section with Andrew Bedrossian, your second in the points. He's, I believe, tied with Logan now for pole positions here in this season. So Andrew, though we may only have one win at this point, has been doing great with the pole. So here is his perspective, and we'll just wait a moment for him. But Jack, in the meantime, while we wait for Andrew to get around and we wait for some times to be put up on the board, what do you think is the thing that you know best about the circuit? I know that you talk a lot about how you have experience watching F1 and stuff, and certainly this track is one of the most unique on the entire F1 calendar. So what sort of race do you think we're going to see tonight? Is it going to be tough to pass? Is it going to be easy to pass? And what sort of atmosphere do you think this track is going to create for us?
Yeah, with the practicing that I've done here this week, it's been super slippery. So depending on what happens, it could be anyone up for the win or even a podium. With how slippery it's been, there should be some good battles tonight. I think a couple near the front and probably a couple near the back. But yeah.
Right, yeah, that's one really interesting thing to mention is that iRacing went through a big change this week. They do their quarterly updates they do for each new drop in terms of new content at the end of each season. iRacing operates in 13-week seasons. So the latest season update actually made some interesting changes, we think, to the tire compound used for these Indy Pro cars that we run our series with. But they feel a lot slicker. Both Jack and I ran practice laps this week and ran in the practice race, and they felt noticeably different on track between Monday and Thursday to the tires. So it's going to be much tougher to get this car around the track. You can see you're able to get the back end around much more than maybe you're used to if you've watched another onboard section this season. So Andrew is just making his way around the final couple of turns. Actually, Logan's going to be the first driver to register an official lap this session. Ran quickest in the first 3 sectors, but Andrew was quickest in the 4th. Just about to put his time up on the board, so we'll get your timing tower up there. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how those guys that practiced at the beginning of the week, or at least hopefully practiced at the beginning of the week, how they were able to adjust to this new tire model, and with the car being much slicker. 2 times have been put up now. Mr. Logan Pacza goes to the provisional pole with a 143.697. Bedrossian's second, Salvatore jumps to 3rd, then Trevor Anderson and Tanner Dignard round out the top 5. Max Preston will now put himself 6th. Going to keep an eye on who is coming around the track to finish their laps as we speak. Mr. Justin Lillick looks like he's just about to put up a time. And trying to find him on the timing board. There he is, there at the very bottom. He will come across the line. Does not look like he registered a time this lap, so meaning that, well, we would assume that maybe he went off track at some point in the lap, which negates your lap time. Now we see Caleb Campbell coming across. He's going to put himself 9th. David Pax is going to put himself 8th. So, interestingly, that the order almost exactly mirrors the order in which the drivers left the pits. So, maybe the track just at the very beginning was somehow more ideal, or maybe guys that were going to be quick and were confident in their timing abilities here in qualifying, maybe they jumped out of the pits really early, chomping at the bit to get out there. Logan Pacza was slower than his personal best in Sector 2, but was actually faster in Sector 3 than Andrew Bedrossian, whereas Andrew had the best time of anybody on the grid so far in the first 2 sectors. So, interesting to see how that battle goes. We're going to go to Logan Pacza now as he comes through the final few corners to finish off his lap. Some guys having some connection troubles tonight, but hopefully that is just temporary.
Trevor Anderson's has a personal best. I mean, yeah. Trevor Anderson is improving his lap time a lot this lap for him, so he's going to probably move up a couple.
Yeah, I'd imagine you're right as he comes through the final corner. Personal best in every sector except the last. He's going to run a little bit off, though. That last sector must have given him some trouble, but he does jump Tim Salvatore. So Andrew Bedrossian, we saw there just a moment ago, he jumped to the provisional pole. Logan Pacza improved his time, but only going to stay 2nd for now. Anderson jumps up to 3rd. I believe Tanner Dignard was just jumped by Max Preston. So now Preston into the top 5. Salvatore just ahead of him. Justin Lillick just ran quickest in the 4th sector. This could be a good lap time for Justin, who, I mean, he's had some good races this season, but we have not seen him get a pole yet this season. Now he's going to go to 5th, so kind of dropped off there in that last sector, but a really promising Sector 4 means we may see more from Justin before this session is over. Now, Trevor, as you just talked about there, Jack, you talked about that last lap where he was setting personal best. Now he set the best time of anybody through Sector 2, so definitely a lot of speed there for that pink car on your screen. I know he usually runs a different livery. He makes his own Anaheim Ducks livery, that orange livery you're probably used to seeing, but tonight, running in honor of our kind of F1 paint schemes theme we got going, he is running the Racing Point pink livery. Look at the wide line there for Tim Salvatore, I think. I believe that's him, manages to save it and get back on track, so he is going to have a track limits violation, meaning this lap time for him will not count. But he will be able to finish the lap. Somebody in the background there locked up. Whoever's driving there behind Trevor Anderson on track maybe just got too much of the slipstream and washed out a little bit wide. Now a couple drivers just about to finish up their lap times ahead of Trevor. Here is Logan Pacza through the final corner. That blue and yellow Turo car, which does fit with our F1 theme, because those of you that may not know, it is a former F1 scheme from back in the day, I believe the 80s or 90s. Logan's going to come across, does not improve, goes 6/10 down on his personal best. Andrew Bedrossian goes 4/10 down on his personal best, so neither improve. Can Trevor Anderson improve his lap time through the final corner? This could be a good time. Can he move up personal best of anybody in the second sector? He will not. So he's going to improve his time a little bit, but he will not move up the timing board. Carl Dronke, out of nowhere, currently sitting 9th. Max Preston will jump his good buddy Justin Lewick into 5th. But there is Carl Dronke we're going to have to go to in just a moment. But he is off the track, so he set a personal best in Sector 1, but must have gone off somewhere later in the lap because he is going to head back to the pits. An unfortunate break there for the 38 car.
And if you look at the top three, it just shows how difficult this track is. Because Trevor in third is about 1.5 seconds slower than Logan Pacza, who's in second.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a storyline we've had all season. Is Rich Foligno, a great time there in that Repsol entry. He's going to jump to 9th. Sorry, that's Marshall Crocker. We're not on Rich Foligno. Rich Foligno in the Lotus entry, about early 2010s era Lotus. He is going to jump to 5th on the board, so we're going to wait for him to set possibly his final lap of the session. Of course, we do have 2 minutes left to go. But yeah, you talked there, Jack, about the gap really between the top two in our qualifying session and really in the championship to everybody else. I mean, Andrew Bedrossian and Logan Pacza have just been absolute forces to be reckoned with all season. They feel a step above the competition at many times, and it really just speaks to how quick the two guys are, how well they know the car, and how just facilitated they are into racing, even at a fairly young age. I know Andrew is older than myself, and Logan is slightly younger, but certainly the two guys are perhaps less experienced overall than some guys in the field, but they make up for it in pure talent. Logan and Andrew are going to run their laps. Can either of them improve? They cannot. Both just running just barely slower. In fact, Andrew ran quicker than Logan's best lap, but it was not better than his own. So Logan Pacza gets one more chance to try to improve. Trevor Anderson will finish his lap. Doesn't improve his own personal time. He actually does, but only very slightly. Tim Salvatore does not. He was slower than his personal best that last time by. Now, a couple of drivers waiting to come around the final corners. Tanner Dignard is just finishing up a lap, but was well off his personal best, so he's going to stay 8th for the time being. Keep an eye, though, on Justin Lewick, who I believe is still running fairly quickly. He was slower than his personal best in sectors 1, 3, and 4, but did have a personal best in 2, so depending on how much quicker that second sector was, we could see a good lap time here from the 7 car.
I'm expecting to see a huge battle for most of the race between Andrew and Logan for probably 90% of the race.
Yeah, that's certainly the hope. We've seen plenty of those all season. They are no strangers to battling each other. Justin Lewick is going to jump to 4th for the time being, just barely in front of Tim Salvatore, so great lap there from the number 7 car. Got to keep an eye, of course, on Logan Pacza and Andrew Bedrossian. We're going to go to Logan's, see if we can find his gearbox cam. There you go. So we can see out the back of the number 16 car, see how far Andrew Bedrossian is and whether or not he's gaining. I don't believe so. So I don't think either guys are going to improve their times from before, but Logan did run a personal best in sectors 2 and 4. So as the checkered flag flies, every driver is only able to finish up their current lap. They cannot start another one. So Logan through the final 2 corners, as he comes out in the final corner in the 16 car. He's had, I believe, 4 poles to this point in the season. Can he go for 5? Your championship leader trying to put the championship on ice in these last couple races. Comes around the final turn. Don't believe he will leapfrog Andrew Bedrossian. He will not. He will go just down. Andrew will not improve upon his time. So provisionally, unless Trevor Anderson in the 25 car has something to say about it, Andrew is your pole sitter. Trevor took the pole in our first practice race on Monday. Can he do it again? He will not, but he does move into within a second of Andrew's time. So really impressive showing from Trevor Anderson. But Tim Salvatore late in the lap. Great lap from the number 91 car. He will pass Justin Lewick by about a 10th. Can Justin respond, though? The 7 car is still on track. Max Preston will come out of the final corner. He is running the Arrows Grand Prix entry, one of my favorite liveries in all of F1. Is it going to put him to a top spot? It will. It'll move him into the top 5 by 11 thousandths over Justin Lulick, his teammate, or not his teammate, but his good friend and, well, I guess former teammate, I believe, in his karting days. Justin will not improve his lap this time, noticeably down on his former time, so not going to jump. Actually, he will. He'll jump Max Preston, so my timing software just lied to me. So Lulick goes 5th, moves into the top 5. Where will Rich Foligno go? Can he put himself into the top 5? He will not, but 3/10 up on his personal best. And Tim Salvatore, I believe, the only car left on track, which means we come to the end of qualifying. But interestingly enough, I noticed David Pacza there, and the 53 car ran the best of anybody, I believe, in that second sector, I believe, there in that last lap. So maybe just went around and caused himself to crash. But man, I really would have liked to see what sort of time he could put up there if he had stayed on the track. Well, that'll about bring us to the end of qualifying. Tim Salvatore will just finish up his lap, but I don't believe it'll count for actual credit. He did run one prior and before the caution flag came out, so this one will not count. But very quickly, before we go on to show you your qualifying results and your grid for tonight's race, let me just put up your race winners to this point in the season as Tim slides off the track. There he goes. But there are your race winners to this point in the season. We just got to reset to an actual camera. There we go. So as we wait for the session to finish in just a moment, that way we can go to your starting grid. There are your race winners to this point in the season. Logan Pacza taking wins at Charlotte and Road America to start the season. Then Michael Krobach making one of his 2 appearances so far this season at Texas, winning in his debut race this year. Logan Pacza then took the win at Monza. Max Preston became the 3rd winner of the season at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park with a great win by his efforts. Then Lime Rock, the only unbroadcasted race of the season, Logan Pacza took that race off the grid. Then Carl Dronke getting the double points win at Indianapolis, a very crucial win in the championship and one that has put him very high up the order to this day. Then at the doubleheader at Detroit, Trevor Anderson took race 1, and a great performance from him, getting his first win in series history for himself. Then Logan Pacza taking win number 5. He's just been so good this season, so he took his win after that. Then Andrew Bedrossian, who had been trying to do it all season, he'd come so close so many times. He was your leader in poles to that point, then took the next win at Olton Park. But after that, Logan Pacza wouldn't let that stick around for long. He then took the win the week after at Iowa Speedway, and after that at Tsukuba. And that is where we are up to at this point. Tsukuba's last week. Logan Pacza, your defending race winner. And that brings it to the end of our race winners to this point in the season. And I'll be sure to update that graphic every week going forward, including the results of tonight's event at Silverstone. But with that being said, we come to the end of your pre-race ceremonies. Now it is time to get into the real thing. Let's put up your starting grid for tonight's race. For starters, on the pole for, I believe, the 6th or 7th time this season, Andrew Bedrossian in the 5 car. What a lap by his efforts. An absolute dominant time for him, and it's great to see because, well, he has been great all season. Congratulations to Andrew on yet another pole. He puts himself in first. On the outside of his front row, Logan Pacza will roll off the grid second. Andrew's championship rival looking to do the best he can to really make a name for himself in this series, and as I said earlier, really put the championship on ice. Just put an end to Andrew's championship bid, or at least his bid for anything other than the 2nd spot. On the 3rd row, though, Trevor Anderson running the Racing Point livery in tonight's event in the 25 car will qualify 3rd. Great performance for him. We'll see if he can get what I believe would be his 4th podium of the season. And Tim Salvatore after that on the outside of row number 2 in the 4th spot in the 91 car. After that, Justin Lulick and Max Preston, the 2 good friends, sit in 5th and 6th on row number 3. Justin just barely edging out Max Preston for 6th.
And then Rich Foligno in the old Lotus, and Tanner Didmer. David Pacza and Carl Dronke. And then Caleb Campbell, Marshall Crocker.
Yep, and it looks like that will at least provisionally round out tonight's grid. Manuel Guerra, who is the final starter in tonight's race, did not make the grid or set a qualifying time, so might be a smaller grid. We'll see if Manuel does exit the pits before the end of the session, and hopefully he does. But yes, as you were talking about, Jack, there with Rich Foligno's entry, he was the Lotus car in tonight's race, and again, we do have that theme going of the themed F1 liveries. We got to do the full practice lap here at Silverstone to get more time for the drivers to warm up their tires. It is a longer track, and considering it's a traditional F1 style race, then you like to use the full track for the warm-up. But very quickly, there is your race info for tonight's race. Tonight's Grand Prix circuit at Silverstone, just over 5 kilometers in length, 42 degrees Celsius today on track. It is a very hot day here at the Silverstone circuit, and the track temp is going to show it. But 26 degrees Celsius out, so the track is going to be very slippery. Very little wind, though, very little precipitation, so looks like we are going to have a very clear race, partly cloudy conditions, so nothing too crazy to write home about. But 35 laps tonight in tonight's race. Laps running about 1 minute 45 apiece, so shouldn't go too long. Should be the race should be over in its entirety sometime around 9:25, 9:30, and very little wind here at the Silverstone circuit. Very quickly, just going to go over the paint schemes being run by tonight's drivers. I adjusted the paint colors on the timing tower tonight, so their numbers will match the color of their cars, making it hopefully a little bit easier for you guys to see where your favorite driver sits at any given moment. But Andrew Bedrossian, your pole sitter, runs his, as always, running Eleanor, his livery based on the Ferrari paint scheme from a couple years ago in F1. Logan Pacza in the blue Turl entry, the pink Racing Point being run by Trevor Anderson in the 25. Tim Salvatore running his own personal Race Sim Canada number 91 car. Max Preston after that running the Arrows number 6 car. Justin Lewick in the Dams number 7. Rich Foligno in the Lotus number 99. Tanner Dignard in the Camel GT number 55 car. Carl Dronke in his own number 38. Marshall Crocker running a Repsol livery. And David Paxa running a Renault, the old IMG livery to round out your special liveries. The pace car is in. The green flag is out. Green flag for the first time tonight at the Silverstone circuit for round number 12 of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series season. Going racing down into turn number 1. Andrew will lead the field. He will successfully hold the lead through turn number 1. Keep an eye there in the background, though, for any chaos that may come up. It certainly does happen from time to time here, but luckily, so far, things stay green and stay clear through the first couple corners, and our first time through the world-famous Maggots and Beckett's. Still green at this point in the session. No issues whatsoever as of yet, but great camera angle as we go down the hangar straightaway into turn number 7. Andrew Bedrossian pulling out a line to be sure that he breaks the draft from Logan Pacza behind. And for the time being, right now, he will. Great effort there from Mr. Andrew Bedrossian to keep the lead for the time being. Trevor Anderson sits there in third, still holding on to his podium spot. No changes in the top 6 in the standings as of yet. Everybody's still on track after the first lap, which is what we like to see. David Paxa in the 53 car, though, in the Renault livery, has moved down 3 spots. Qualified 10th, has moved down 3 spots to 12th. Marshall Crocker there on the very first lap, and that Repsol number 15 entry has moved up 2 spots from 12th to 10th. Keeping an eye out for battles in this very first lap, but for the most part, guys are just, I think, trying to get used to the tires, trying to get some heat in them, and try to go for whatever grip they can. We talked about, Jack, how warm this track is here at Silverstone, and with the new tire set that iRacing has added in the latest update, just how tough it can be to go for grip. So, in your own personal opinion, as we just wait for guys to get settled into the cars, how important do you think it is to be sure to focus on getting tire grip in the car before you start making those big aggressive passes?
Yeah, like you were saying with the new tires and how warm this track is going to be, without the tire warmth, you could miss your braking zone and then easily take them out and you out of the race, or take them out.
Well, speaking of which, right as we go to that, Justin Lewick, as you can see, comes off track in turn number 1. Let's get a quick replay on what happened to him. Coming through turn number 1, the back end gets a little bit twitchy on him. Does a right-hander to correct. Gets a little bit too far off the track into the grass, and just a little bit too much of that outside grass once you get off the rumble curbs is enough to send the car around. And in this case, that is exactly what happened. Let's get one more shot from his perspective, but we've got to keep an eye up front to the actual battle. So we get one more view from his perspective just to see, as he gets into the outside curving, what happened there. I think we got to keep an eye on track. I believe Tanner Dignard has lost a couple spots, so has Rich Foligno. So we'll go on track to see that in a moment, but as you can see, just too much of the outside grass for the number 7 car. This is live with your race leader, Mr. Andrew Bedrossian, being chased very closely by Logan Pacza, his championship adversary there in second. Lewick had to jump back to the pits, so we will wish for a speedy recovery for his car so we can get back on the track. We'll likely lose a lap, but always the potential of a multi-car crash that brings out a caution. Of course, we For those of you that may be confused that we didn't get a caution for Justin's incident, we only call cautions for multi-car incidents in this series. That way we can keep the green flag action to a maximum, and that way we are only calling cautions on track for ones that are relevant to the race order in general. Because if we call the caution, then we would be in the exact same spot as we are now. Guys still saying relatively single file at this point, though. Again, trying to feel out the car to this point in the race. But David Pacza just made the move on Caleb Campbell, who I actually don't see in this shot. That might be a bad omen there. Let's try to find the number 11 car. He has gone around there in the final corner. That Oreo livery, probably the same issue as Justin, just got a little bit too far into the outside grass and sent the car around. Gets a quick recovery, though. Is only going to lose about 10 seconds on track, so not too bad. It's a very long lap here at the Silverstone circuit, so plenty of time for him to make up that mistake. So he is back on track. He's going to sit 11th provisionally, but still, again, plenty of time to improve from this point. Manuel Guerra shows up as on track, but I don't see him on the circuit surface. So looks like the 13 car of Manuel Guerra did not elect to start tonight's event. Besides that, though, looking around here, we don't really have any other close battles for position. We'll put up the intervals between each driver on track, a very valuable tool, and well, I guess I was wrong. We got a battle here between Carl Dronke and Rich Foligno. And right as I go to it, somebody's around. Who is that in the background? Carl Dronke falling rapidly through the field. Somebody else involved as well. Caution comes out. Our first caution of the night, right as we painted the incident. Andrew Bedrossian and Logan Pacza, as you can see how close they are on track. They were having a great battle. But first we got to go back and look at what incident put Mr. Carl Dronke in the pit lane. So here is your view of Carl Dronke as he comes around turn number 7 off the hanger straight. Maybe just, I don't know if he got loose or if it was as a result of something else. Gets a little bit too far into the outside grass. He goes around and catches Rich Foligno with him. The 99 car, nowhere to go as the 38 car spins around. And again, I've said it so many times, but poor Rich Foligno, he seems to find himself in the worst places at any given moment. And it's totally unwarranted. Like, the guy, I don't know where Rich was supposed to go in that particular situation. We'll go on board here, Jack, and we'll see what you think. But yeah, I think in that particular scenario, once Carl got wide, I don't know what else Rich was going to do to avoid the incident.
Yeah, it was just right in front of him. If he were on the grass, he probably would have spun and hit the wall. It probably caused more damage. And with how fast he was going up to call, I don't think that he would have had time to move to the right to get out of the way.
Yeah, exactly. Like, once you get in an incident like that and you see a guy going around, there's so little reaction time you get, and to be able to even get on track at all, to be able to recover enough to keep in the race is impressive enough at that point. But yeah, so hard in the moment to try to avoid the crash itself. And there again, Rich just, there was nowhere he was going to go. As you say, though, if he went in the grass, the same way that Carl immediately lost the back end, you got to imagine that similar situation probably would have happened to him. So not much you can do there for the 99. But again, that terrible luck he's had all season. Really hope he gets back out on track before the pace car comes around. Really hoping he stays on the lead lap. But now that we were a couple laps into tonight's event, we can put up your positions again for each driver in the field. Your top 4 the same as they were in qualifying. Bedrossian, Pacza, Anderson, Salvatore, your top 4. Max Preston now moves into the top 5, I believe, passing his teammate Justin Lulick, or again, good buddy Justin Lulick, who has returned to the track surface there, sitting at the back of the line, who is 1 lap down. There, 1 lap back of the field. Same for Rich Foligno and Carl Dronke, currently sitting provisionally 1 lap down. So hopefully under pit cycles they can make that lap up and get back onto the lead lap. Because again, poor Rich Foligno, man. I can't even put it into words. The poor guy just never seems to have any good luck at all, and almost never is a fault of his own. So, Rich, I'm pulling for you, man. I know it's going to be one of these days, and you can't count him out because we still have plenty of race time to go, but at least for the time being, it is going to be quite the spirited comeback for Rich Foligno to get back into the top 10, let alone go for the win in tonight's race. Lights on the pace car are still on. I believe we're going to do 1 more full lap after this under caution, but generally they haven't taken too long at the practice races, so hopefully we don't spend too much time behind the pace car, both right now and in general in tonight's race. But again, the positions gained by each driver: Bedrossian, Pacza, Anderson, Salvatore still in the top 4. Preston moving by Lubick for 5th. Tanner Dignard is up 2 spots from 8th to 6th, so he sits in 6th for the moment. Marshall Crocker, after that, who has moved up 5 spots, has gone from, I believe, 12th to 7th at the very beginning of tonight's race in the Repsol entry, so maybe a good night for him. And hopefully it trends that way going forward. I know my dad has had a really good season to this point. At least, he's put in a lot of effort, and sometimes the results aren't always there, but he definitely puts in the effort necessary to get a top 3 result, and came so close multiple times this year, including, I believe, at what was the track that until Fuel, I believe, put an end to it, he might have gotten a win. Same with John Guerra. I'm trying to remember what track that was. Might have been Monza, but definitely some opportunities this year, and maybe tonight will be the night. But Rich Foligno has returned to the track. You see that number 11 dot on track. Justin Lewick still sits in 12th behind them, but on the same lap as the 2 drivers up ahead. So Carl Dronke and Rich Foligno will rejoin the back of the field. Again, they will be a lap down. But hey, I honestly don't... Oh, they're not. They will stay on the lead lap. They got out ahead of the pace car, which is great to see. So Carl Dronke and Rich Foligno still very much present in tonight's event and will get a second chance to go for the win. But for now, there are the spots gained. Once again, David Pacza and Caleb Campbell, the only 2 guys I didn't mention, up 1 and 2 spots apiece. Rich Foligno will lose 4 spots as a result of being collected in the incident. And Justin Lewick, splitting in 5th at the very beginning of the race on lap 2, moves back 7 spots all the way to 12th. Your only driver a lap down at this point, but again, Justin's made some big moves in the past. He is one of the guys that I would definitely consider as having the potential to go for the win, even from a lap down here at a track like Silverstone. Lights on the pace car are still on, so I believe for a moment we're going to go to an onboard with Andrew Bedrossian. We're going to go to a quick side-by-side commercial break, your first of the race, and we try to keep the minimal here at the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series broadcasting side. So I'm going to drop away for a minute, check the comments, and we'll be right back in just a moment for round number 12 of the 2020/2021 Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series season, coming to you live tonight from the Silverstone circuit. And we're back after just a quick break here under caution at the Silverstone circuit. The lights on the pace car, as you can see, are off, and I've almost made our way down the entire hangar straight, so there's not much time left before we go green in tonight's event, once again for the second time in tonight's race. Very quickly though, before we get to the bread and butter of tonight's race, which is of course the actual racing when we go back to green, I just want to do a quick through the field segment here. I know we do them occasionally at times, but instead of talking about what they've done so far in tonight's race, I'd rather talk about what they have done so far this season. First of all, Mr. Andrew Bedrossian, again, sitting second in points. The closest guy, and perhaps the only guy left to challenge Logan Pacza for the series title at this late point in the season. The 5 car has been great all year. I mean, Andrew, aside from his win at Oulton Park, which was, of course, impressive, it was one of the more dominant ones we've seen all season. But really, all year, I mean, Andrew has fought for second places. Whenever Logan takes the win, usually Andrew isn't too far behind, trying to stay in the championship battle, and that was the case both last week at Tsukuba and the week before at Iowa. So Andrew, though he's played bridesmaid, not the bride, in the last couple weeks, I think here at Silverstone, where he stayed with Logan, he stayed competitive, and I think he's developed a new mindset late in the season to go for points. That really more so like the more conservative, points-oriented over wins-oriented one that Logan's taken for a long time. So we'll see if that pays off for him tonight. Just trying to limit those mistakes is going to be key for him. Logan Pacza, though, his championship adversary, 7 wins to this point in the season. I say a points over wins philosophy, but man, Logan Pacza can rack up both. Sitting second in the race, first in the points, and really, if he's him trying to get the championship, this is where I'd be content sitting. Maybe not trying to go for the risk with the win there with Andrew involving getting in an incident. They've had some incidents in the past before, so maybe the best place to stay is right there in second. But before we go back to green, Mr. Trevor Anderson, third. Keep an eye on him. He was your pole sitter in our practice race on Monday. So we know he has the pace here. Maybe on the restart, that Racing Point number 25 car will have something to say about the win. But as we come out of the final turn, the pace car off on a pit road. Andrew is the control car. Now gets on the gas pedal. Green flag for the second time tonight. The first restart of the race at Silverstone Circuit for round number 12 of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series season at Legacy Silverstone Circuit. Through the first corner. Let's see if everybody can maintain traction through the very first corner. Avoid getting too far into the outside grass like Justin Lewick did. Somebody was off track in the background. Justin Lewick once again, but he gets back on. Great save. Yes, somebody out there in the background has gone around. That was Rich Foligno. Again, we just talked about the horrible luck from being involved in that Carl incident. What happened here through turn number 1? Gonna go to a quick replay there. The number 99 car through turn 1, just a little bit too loose. Loses the back end. Nose first into the inside wall, and well, as we go back live to the front of the field, he has left the session. As soon as he went around, he decided to go. So horrible luck again for the 99 car. Hopefully he comes back before the end of the race. But huge battle for the lead. We got to talk about this first. We can't focus too much on the past. Side by side there into turn number 9 for the number 16 and the number 5 car. Bedrossian still trying to hold off Lewick, but don't forget about Trevor Anderson there in the background. I just talked about him. Maybe he was going to go for the move here at the very beginning, but instead decides to hold off for now. Justin Lewick has also left the race surface. He's gone back to the pits. Carl Dronke is off track. He is just recovering, I believe, from a solo spin there out of turn number 10. Here, side by side, though, Logan looked to the inside there and through the last couple corners, but Andrew holds him off for the time. Now, through the final couple of turns here, this final right-hander can be a great passing opportunity if he commits to the inside, but Logan, for the time being, is just going to be content with sitting behind and waiting for now. Tim Salvatore and Max Preston continue to round off your top 5. As we come to turn number 1, once again, this battle between Logan Pacza and Andrew Bedrossian. You alluded to it there at the very beginning there, Jack, but yeah, these two have had some great battles all season, and Silverstone, more so than anywhere else, makes it really easy, thanks to the long straightaways and the slipstreams, to keep up with your opponent in front of you, and really that's all Logan needs, is if he makes the littlest mistake, well, at least you got the slipstream to catch all that ground up, and well, the only possible issue with that is at the end of the hangar straight, you might wash out too wide into the corner and lose traction, but Logan is an experienced driver. I don't think he's going to make that same mistake. He does have some slight internet troubles, or at least Andrew does, so as we come down the straightaway, slight flickers there, but now we are good as we come through the very long turn number 7 right-hander. Logan right on the back end of Andrew Bedrossian. Andrew blocking all he can as he comes up to turn number 8. That hard left-hander, both guys make it successfully. Maybe the over-under attempt from Logan Pacza. Really nice move in theory, but he's got to make it stick. He cannot for the time being, so Logan Pacza will have to stick with second for the time being, still trying to find a way past his championship rival. But keep an eye on in the background. Again, Trevor Anderson is right there. Trevor Anderson is giving them no breathing room, and side by side goes Salvatore and Preston as well through turn number 11. Look at Preston on the inside, gets the move done side by side through the turn, and Salvatore kept it on track but had to give up the spot. Fourth place goes to the Arrows Grand Prix entry of Max Preston.
It appeared that Justin Lewis and Carl Dronke made contact after the hangar straight. It appeared that Connor, that Dronke made his front right tire made contact with Justin's wheel left.
Oh, gotcha. That would probably explain why Justin is also off. I noticed that he went back to the pits pretty immediately after that, and it might have something to do with, you saw that through the first corner there on the restart, washing out into the grass once again would have taken some grip out of the tires, and maybe over the course of the longer lap, and one of the trickiest tires for grip, or the trickiest turns for grip is where he lost it there while trying to battle with Carl, so maybe that would explain the incident. But Carl is back on track. He was able to get the car back up to speed quickly and will remain on the lead lap. As we come through turn number 7, once again, though, Logan has backed off a little bit. He's dropped down a couple tenths in this lap from Andrew Bedrossian, but both himself and Trevor Anderson still very much in the picture. We're going to maybe go to a partial cockpit view here. Maybe going to show the gyro cam here from Trevor Anderson's perspective, because he has a great view of this battle up ahead. What better spot to be in than on track right behind him? He is trying to find a way to catch up to these two. You see them swerving back and forth, those left and right jives from Andrew Bedrossian. That's to try to break the slipstream behind to Logan Pacza. We're going to go up to Logan again because he has a, slightly more consistent internet connection than these two guys. Or maybe that's not the case. Looks like everybody's just dropping frames tonight at Silverstone. But Logan still right on the back end of Andrew Bedrossian. One mistake from the driver of the number 5 car, and he's got the championship leader breathing right down his neck. But again, Trevor Anderson, I know he's losing a little bit of time in that last lap, but I'm really comfortable with where Trevor is sitting. I think he's in the perfect spot to just wait for a mistake. We saw earlier that Rich Foligno thing where, once an incident happened in front of him, so little time to react. Whereas I don't think that's the case for Trevor. I think with where he's sitting, he'll have more time to make a reactionary move and fix the situation. Oh, we had a little bit of a drop there, but we are back. And Trevor Anderson, again, is going to lose some time. He's a little further back than he was, but is still definitely in the conversation. We're going to put up the interval tracker now. This shows the gap between each individual driver on track. That way you can watch out for battles. Orange means we are very close to, the two drivers are very close to each other on track. Yellow means they're within a second. And here is Andrew Bedrossian and Logan Pacza again, the swerving as we come down the hangar straight. You don't really have much of a choice if you're Andrew Bedrossian to try to hold off Logan. So little room to work with, and you see just how close Logan gets to the back, even with all that swerving. So either Andrew's choices are he loses some speed and loses some momentum by swerving back and forth to try to avoid Logan, or he lets him have the slipstream, which is objectively worse, and at least in the short term is much more detrimental to his chances at the win. But now again through turn number 9, side by side, or at least they were as close back to front as they can get. Not quite side by side yet, but Logan going to get a really good run off of turn number 10. Might have the chance into the left-hander in turn number 11 and 12. Not this lap, but he's getting very close. Turn number 14 here in the later corners of the track. Logan is the closest he's been all race. Again, Trevor is losing some time. He's now 2 seconds back of your race leader, Andrew Bedrossian. But Logan Pacza might have something to say about that. The more these guys battle, the more the 25 car is going to get involved in the equation. Through the final turn, Logan is right behind, so close. Tim Salvatore has made the move for 4th, and that is because Max Preston and the number 6 car so rarely makes mistakes, but he did just do so there. Went off there in those final couple of corners, and Tim Salvatore will take the position for the time being. Now Tim Salvatore back into the 4th spot where he was earlier. Back up to turn number 1, though. We are now 11 laps out of 35, so about a third of the way through tonight's race. And since the beginning, it's been Andrew Bedrossian, your race leader, but Logan Pacza not giving him an inch of space. And the same holds true here through Maggots and Beckett's. Right behind is the number 16 car.
When Max went off, he lost the back end a little bit, but was able to save it somehow, and only lost a couple seconds.
Yeah, it's something Max has been so good at in the past is working with mistakes and dealing with them when he has them, and it's something that really sets the best from the rest, and is definitely a quality of a championship contender driver, and that is what Max is. Logan looking for an opening here as we come down to turn number 9, but didn't quite find one for the time being. Trevor Anderson, again, still creeping about 2 seconds back. Still a good spot to be. And he will definitely still have a good view of this battle. Nobody else within a second of each other, but who cares when we have this battle up front. Logan going to look to the outside once again up to turn number 11. That left-hander. Andrew, though, perfect car positioning. It's one of the things he's best at, is knowing where to put the car in just so annoying of a spot that the guy behind you is really left without an option or an opportunity to go anywhere but stay right behind you. And, well, Andrew knows where to put the car, and it is working for him. Logan Pacza having a very tough time trying to find an opening. Keep an eye, though, on that number 25 entry again. He's going to play such a vital role in this race, because I don't mean to suggest that two championship contenders and two drivers as quality as Andrew Bedrossian and Logan Pacza are. I don't mean to say that they would make a mistake, at least not a very likely one, but again, it's happened in the past, and certainly when you battle for such long periods of time, as tough as these guys are on each other, giving each other so little room, you almost leave yourself no choice but to risk an incident. David Pacza, I see returning to the track. He's going to lose a spot to not only Tanner Dignard, but there goes the 15 of Marshall Crocker. Maybe not quite yet, but he is catching him very quickly. The 53 and the 15 car as we come up to turn number 1. A hard block from David Pacza. He is not giving him any room, but Marshall Crocker around the outside into turn number 1. Keeps the car off the outside gravel, or at least the outside grass. Probably the smart move in the short term. Won't get the move done on David Pacza, but I have the feeling that was a very similar incident to what happened to Max Preston, just losing the back end a little bit through the final couple corners. Back up to the lead, though. Every time we check with these two, coming down to this corner, something exciting happens. Up to turn number 9. Once again, Logan's going to try the outside. They go side by side. Doesn't quite get the position. Tries the over-under, but Andrew Bedrossian keeps the back end in there just long enough to hold off Logan Pacza. So really that one opportunity there where Andrew put the back end out just far enough that Logan Pacza kind of bobbled in order to keep the car off of Andrew's number 5. That lost him a little bit of time. He's now going to drop back about 4/10. And really, I know we haven't seen the opportunity present itself yet. Marshall Crocker is now going to make the move on David Pacza, it would appear. And that is because David has gone off once again. David Pacza off the track, and now just returning after a brief slip up there, back on the racing surface. And Marshall Crocker will take over the position as a result. So Marshall Crocker now up into the 6th spot. David Pacza drops back to 7th. Got to go to the front of the field, though, once again. Got to be the place we always check in on. Andrew Bedrossian and Logan Pacza. Still the battle for the lead rages on. Logan gained about a 10th there through the final couple of corners, including turn number 1. Now Marshall Crocker has gotten Tanner Dignard as well. Tanner's made a similar mistake. The 55 car getting loose, and again, those final couple of corners. And I don't know what it is about that section, but guys have been struggling there all race, and we see it rear its ugly head again. Tanner Dignard back on track. Having a little bit of internet dropout. Hopefully that's just temporary and on my side. Hopefully you can still hear me there, Jack. But as we come up through the final corner, Marshall Crocker has gained 2 spots in the span of just a couple of laps. We see a little bit more flickering here through the turns number 10 and 11 section. Andrew Bedrossian still holding off Logan Pacza. See there, Trevor in the background. Tim Salvatore might be in frame in just a moment, but Logan Pacza still sticking in the draft. Now going to think about the inside, but again, Andrew Bedrossian putting himself in just the perfect spot to hold him off. And one thing that I'm impressed with how Andrew's running his defense in this race is he's not just making erratic moves left and right to try to hold Logan behind him. He's making like smart, subtle movements there with his car, putting it in just the perfect spot to hold up the guy behind him. And really, that's all you got to do if you're in his position, is just be annoying, be a pest as the leader, and force Logan to make the move rather than giving up an easy opportunity yourself. But he almost does so here. Logan gets to the inside. He's got the inside line, but Andrew will get the better run off the corner, so he's got to cut down to the inside line. Protect from Logan. Logan is under, though. Logan has to swerve to avoid the inside bollards that separate the pit road from the final turn. Side by side to turn number 1. They get together. Logan gives him a tap and goes by. Logan taps the side of Andrew Bedrossian's number 5, gets him a little bit loose, and that was all he needed to make the move. A little bit of a tap, just a tiny bit of contact, and that was all you needed. They stay on track, but Logan Pacza is your new race leader. As we wait to see how this battle develops in the rest of the race, Oh, we got to go back up to the front. I was going to say we're going to keep an eye here on this battle between Pacza and Dronky, but Bedrossian right behind as we come out of the final couple of turns. Now up to the very famous in this race, corner number 9. We've seen plenty of potential moves happen here, but Logan will hold him off. Back to David Pacza, who is currently holding off Karl Dronky for position. David, who moves up into the 8th spot with Karl just behind there in the 38 car in 9th. Karl, I believe, is ahead in points, partially as a result of his great performance at the double points event in Indianapolis earlier this year, so he is the guy to beat there in the championship. But Andrew Bedrossian back to the lead. When did that happen? On my timing screen, he was like 3/10 down on Logan into the corner, so I didn't even bother showing it. But out of nowhere, makes the move up on the inside, I would presume, into turn number 11. Andrew Bedrossian making moves out of nowhere here. Probably the best pass architect of anybody in the series. He finds overtaking opportunities where nobody else can. And Jack, as I'm sure you can attest to, that the toughest thing to do as a driver is to defend from a guy who's as unpredictable as Andrew Bedrossian can be.
Yeah, with how good Andrew is, he can make any move done, inside, outside, and like you saw, from 3/10 back or from 1/10, and without, and another fact of how good he is just shows how easily going he is during the race. He's always calm, and
yeah, exactly. And so much demeanor is so important in how a driver drives. Tanner Digner, as we watch this battle between himself and Marshall Crocker, he goes wide, but is back on the track. So Marshall Crocker will hold on to 6th for the time being, but behind, Karl Dronky looks to have made the move on David Pacza, and he has. So Karl Dronky up into 8th, and David Pacza.
David's fun, I believe.
Yeah, he did. David Pacza there through turn number 1 off track and recovers quite quickly. He's going to stay in 9th for the time being, but David Pacza, the second time we've seen him go around this race, and really, Jack, this race hasn't been filled with many cautions. We had the one there at the beginning, but really it's just guys making those little individual mistakes, those little spins that'll mess up one driver's race but are not serious enough to bring out a caution. And really, if I'm a driver, that's got to be even more frustrating because you don't get that caution to make up for your mistakes or whatever situation may put you out of the battle for position that you were in, of course, before you got taken out.
Yeah, and with David's spin, we've seen this multiple times with this race where a driver just hits the outside of the corner of turn 1 and just gets over the apex a little bit and just completely loses it.
And that's one thing that Silverstone is so rough on, is these curbs. You kind of have to hit them in a lot of scenarios. Like you see here through Maggots and Beckett's, Bedrossian and Pacza both have to hit them quite aggressively in order to keep the car in a proper line, or at least one that's competitive to everybody else. So you have to take those risks here at Silverstone. And at some tracks, you avoid the curbs at all costs, and that's the general rule. But, you know, it's not always going to be the case. Sometimes you really do have to attack the curbs, and once you do, you put yourself at risk. Bedrossian and Pacza side by side again through turn number 7. Bedrossian holds him off, but man, Logan made up a lot of track ground in that corner. So Bedrossian's still the man to beat, still holding him off. David Pacza has come into the pit lane this time by, so he is going to take more fuel, more tires, and will head on his way. The first driver on the lead lap to pit to this point. Now going to look to the outside. Logan Pacza side by side coming up to turn number 11. Very little room to go. Bedrossian squeezing him right to the edge and is going to keep the corner. Andrew Bedrossian, great defensive performance we're seeing from him tonight. I am really impressed with what we've seen from the number 5 car. But a guy we should talk about before we check on this battle here between Marshall Crocker, Karl Dronky, and Tanner Digner that is effectively for 6th, we should also talk about Trevor Anderson, because again, I alluded to the fact before that he is going to play a vital role in this race because he is the kind of in the catbird seat spot. If this battle between Andrew Bedrossian and Logan Pacza goes wrong and results in an incident, he's the guy that'll be there to pick up the pieces and clean up the mess because he's in 3rd. He can just wait for the incident to happen, and all of a sudden, he is in a great position for his 2nd win of the season. So Trevor Anderson, though, again, he may not be involved in the battle right now. Keep an eye out for that number 25 Racing Point car because he is very much has the potential to factor into the rest of the race going forward. This is looking at the back of the gearbox of Andrew Bedrossian's car on Logan Pacza as we come up the hangar straight. So this should give you a good context for just how much room that 16 car is able to make up. You see the 5 car trying to sway a little bit just to break the draft to Logan. And as we come up towards turn number 7, Logan all the way to the outside. Didn't quite get the room though. It's so tough to try to find a passing opportunity that's safe here. Really, you always have to take a risk if you want to make a move here at Silverstone. And that is what Logan is finding out the hard way into turn number 9. You kind of just got to force Andrew to make a mistake, and so many guys having internet dropouts. I don't know, well, partially I think it's just me, but partially some other guys too, so just know that when we have quick little blips like that, they do come back pretty quick, and every live update is what is actually on the track. So if you see a guy drop out for a moment, I assure you they will be back very quickly. And here's the battle between Marshall Crocker and Carl Dronke. This is for 6th. I haven't really seen too many battles between these two guys, two veterans of a Skip Barber series I used to put on, so they've raced each other plenty before. Carl Dronke will take over the 6th spot. Great inside move into turn number 7. Crocker kind of left the inside line open, but he took the more ideal outside line. Makes the move here. Oh, he went for the aggressive send into turn number 9. Washes out a little bit too far. Gets back on track, though. So if he can get up to speed with relatively little damage, he should be okay. Gets back on track. Tanner Dignard will get by as well. So Tanner Dignard, the 55 car, back up into 7th. And is going to provisionally sit as the next car to try to chase down Carl Dronke there for 6th. Well back of Max Preston there in 5th as the top 5 separated by only 13 seconds. So the top of the field really close, but after that it's a pretty significant drop off to the rest of the field as both a result of general pace and as a result of some of the spins we've seen happening in the lower midfield area of the track. Trevor Anderson, though, we go to him. I noticed he was falling back on the timing tower, and he has gone off. Tim Salvatore will jump up to 3rd. Max Preston will jump up to 4th. And just like that, the guy I was saying in the catbird seat watching the battle for 1st, that has just changed. Logan has just passed Andrew in the background. Makes the same mistake that Justin did, though. Just gets a little bit too wide in turn number 1. Taps the back end off the wall, so he'll probably come in for his fuel pit stop very soon in order to repair that 25 car. But again, so vital to keep the car on the inside through turn number 1, not wash out too far. And Trevor Anderson has now learned that lesson. Still going to sit in 5th provisionally, but that is not what you like to see if you were a Trevor Anderson fan. So he'll go down to 5th, still in the top 5, but that'll move Tim Salvatore up into the podium spots. And after qualifying on pole at Iowa, Tim Salvatore has had a good last couple races, but has not been on the podium in a little while. So it would be great for Tim as a bit of a redemption drive to put himself into 3rd at the end of tonight's race. But back to the lead battle, Andrew Bedrossian and Logan Pacza, just as we pass the halfway point in tonight's race, still battling for 1st as they have been literally every lap to this point. And just
Andrew's now pitting.
Yeah, Andrew has entered the pits. He's going to be the first driver to pit as the leader, which is interesting. I would have thought that based on his traditional strategy, he was going to wait for Logan, who is traditionally the one to pit first. And, well, I guess Andrew going for the more aggressive undercut move, but Max Preston and Trevor Anderson both going to follow in behind him. Trevor, presumably, because he took a little bit of damage there from that spin in turn number 1. But Max Preston, I guess, just going to go with the Andrew Bedrossian strategy here. It's interesting to see who opts with which of the two leaders in terms of what is the more ideal pit strategy. So Tim Salvatore is going to stay out. Looks like he's going to go a little bit longer, just like Logan Pacza, who is now your new race leader. But Trevor Anderson, Max Preston is going to be the race here off pit road. Trevor will get a quick repair and fix the damage that he has as a result of that turn 1 incident, so he will be competitive the rest of the race. But Trevor Anderson beats Max Preston off pit road. Great run there for the number 25 car. And he will put himself back into the top 4 with that move. Although I guess that is provisionally because Carl Dronke, who did not pit this time, now moves up into 4th. Here's the battle as well between Tanner Dignard, who now just passes Max Preston. Tanner has yet to pit. Max just did, but Max will be on cold tires trying to get them up to speed. So Tanner Dignard may have the opportunity to hold himself ahead of your championship contender Max Preston, who goes around at the exit to Maggots and Beckett's turn number 6. That right-hander flicked it a little bit too hard on cold tires, and just like that, there goes the number 6 car. He's trying to recover to the track. Does he have damage? I wouldn't have thought he would have hit anything, but this is live. He's gone off the track. No, he hasn't. He's still here, but he's not moving. So just like that, championship contender Max Preston is out of the event, at least for the time being, is not moving on track. So keep an eye on him. Wondering if it's a tech issue. He's been having VR issues all season, and I really hope this isn't another one of those, but for the time being, Max has come to a full stop on track, and now the second of your top 5, or well, I guess your fourth of your top 5 to come into the pits for service, Mr. Tim Salvatore now comes down pit lane, leaving Logan Pacza the only driver in that original top 5 who has yet to pit. Karl Dronke, also in the top 5, has not come into the pit lane either. And there's Tim Salvatore leaving his pit box as he exits. So Tim Salvatore, quick service for him. He's going to get back out on track. And with Max Preston going around just a moment ago, the guy that was previously occupying the third place spot that he now sits in, that makes the job a little bit easier for Tim Salvatore, as he's got about a 4-second gap behind to Karl Dronke, who has yet to pit, and then a 6-second gap behind to Trevor Anderson, who has. Tanner Dignard is also going to come down pit road this time, so the number 55 car will have his first service of the race. Goes a little bit too far into his pit box and washes out. Now official, Max Preston has left tonight's race session, and well, I really hope that wasn't a tech issue, but with him not being able to restart there after his spin, that is what it looks like it was. So horrible news again for any fans of the number 6 car. Max was doing great to this point in the race tonight, as he's done so many times this season, and I'm just so curious to see if he didn't have those tech issues like he's had plaguing him all season, where he would be in the championship fight. But now your race leader, Mr. Logan Pacza, on to pit road. Here comes the number 16 car, and so important there to have a good pit in and pit out, because Andrew Bedrossian, championship and race rival, sits 25 seconds back. That's about the length of a pit stint, so keep an eye on the track map there. Andrew is not too far behind. He is the number 2 dot coming out of the final corner. Logan is the number 1 blue dot there, sitting in the pit lane. So here we go. Got to get up and off the jack very quickly. Andrew is about to go by, and he will be on warm tires. So Logan Pacza will have more tires late in the race, going to have more grip. But in the short term, Andrew is going to be faster through the final turn. Can Andrew catch him in time on warmer tires? He doesn't. Logan stays provisionally ahead out of pit exit. A great pit exit for the 16 car. Logan wasted no time getting back up to speed. But again, so important that he tempers himself, maybe waits on those cold tires. And I don't know about you, Jack. I'm curious to know what your strategy call on this would be, but do you almost want to let Andrew by, not to put pressure on yourself to use those cold and slippery tires, and maybe just wait till later in the race when you have the grip advantage as compared to Andrew?
Yeah, well, with how close this battle's been, and you saw with Max's spin with the cold tires, I'd probably let him by and then let my tires warm up, because I'll have more grip and my tires will be better and closer to the end of the race, and take the risk and hope that it pays off and I'm able to get past Andrew near the end.
Right, yeah, I think that I think that's the best thing to do, is just think long term. And you got 14 laps left in the race at a very long Silverstone track. That's plenty of time. Maybe best to think for the future. But this battle that is happening right in the present, as we wait to see if Andrew can make up that 7/10 gap he's got to Logan coming out of the pits. This is the battle between Karl Dronke and Trevor Anderson. Karl, who has yet to pit, so technically not battling for position, but Trevor Anderson, who has and is trying to get past Karl as quickly as he can, so we can go up there to catch up to Tim Salvatore, who only sits 3 seconds ahead, provisionally holding down that final podium spot.
And Andrew lost in the final corner spins, but doesn't hit the wall.
Oh, no, wait. Yeah, he has gone around. So, yeah, thank you, Jack. The 5 car, in his attempt to catch Logan Pacza, his championship rival, your top championship battle, and Logan, again, with 4 races to go. In not a crazy points lead, but about 60 points. That will require some great performances from Andrew later in the season, or in the very few races we have left. And he's still in second. Like, he's holding down a top point spot. But you gotta think, if you're the 5 car, the one thing you didn't want to do was make a little mistake like that. And at the high level they've been running all race, it's so tough to push that hard and not make a slip up every once in a while. And that was his slip up. So Andrew Bedrossian now 7.5 seconds back. He's going to have to try to reel that gap in about a half second a lap till the end of the race if he wants to catch Logan Pacza. But now, Trevor Anderson, I'm seeing on track. Yes, the 25 car is by. So Trevor Anderson has passed Karl Dronke, who, again, they're not on the same fuel stint. They're on the same pit strategy, so they were not battling each other on track. But again, got to think in terms of building up that confidence there, building that momentum for Trevor Anderson. Now you know how to pass 1 car, and up ahead we see him in the same camera shot here, the 91 of Tim Salvatore, who he's also battling on track. is his next adversary. So keep an eye there on that battle. But again, Carl Dronke, the question is, when does he have to come into the pits? We're going to go to him and then look at the pit strategy to this point. So there is the pit stops for every driver. Carl pitted on lap 3. So very early in the event. You can't do a race on 32 laps of fuel. I guarantee it. So he is going to have to find some other time to get another pit stop in. And even if he does, I think he's going to get passed by Marshall Crocker. But depending on where he comes out, might hold down 6th from Tanner Dignard. So something to keep an eye on there. Might still have enough time if he comes into it for a pit stop soon. But now, if I'm him, I would forget about Trevor Anderson. Trevor is one of the quickest guys in the field. He qualified 3rd for a reason. I think you just let him do his thing, let him try to track down Tim Salvatore, and just move on and think about your race in the bigger picture. We're going to go to a very brief break as we get to about 12 laps to go this next time by. Not a ton of time left, but we have plenty of racing left to solve. We're going to go to a very quick commercial break, but for myself and Jack Hillier, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching the 12th round of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series season. Going to go on board live here with Trevor Anderson as we go side by side as he attempts to chase down Tim Salvatore. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, after a very quick break here in the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series, season number 1 of this current series, but round number 12. And we are on board here with Marshall Crocker, at least keeping an eye on the 15 car. And the reason for that is it looks like on my telemetry he did just go around a moment ago, so we'll have to see the repercussions of that. I believe it was just a solo spin. I'm not seeing on my telemetry that anybody else was involved, and we are still under green, meaning that no other car would have been involved in the incident, otherwise it would have brought out a caution. But he will remain on track. So now he's going to drop back to 8th, meaning that the next driver behind him is Caleb Campbell, who currently sits in 9th, the last driver in the top 9 and the last driver on the lead lap. But yeah, Marshall Crocker, you got to wonder later in the race, is it something with tires getting low on tire grip and something like that? But I'll throw it to you there, Jack, because you've raced with us almost every race of this entire season. You'd know much better than I, because I haven't run too many long duration races in this car, at least not in this current series. So what is the Indy Pro like for tire wear over a longer stint in the race? Did the tires really start to fall off there by the end?
Yeah, it depends on the track, but usually closer to the end, like depending on ovals like Iowa, where I believe it was like 150 laps or whatever it was, you could kind of really feel it, especially on the ovals. And then and with this track, yeah, it's with the corners and everything and the braking zones, it's really hard to get your hitting strategy correct, because and especially if you're battling with someone else. But most tracks is closer to the end, but there's a couple where where it really starts to feel midway through compared to closer to the end.
And it's something that it's so important to see how guys deal with that, changing tire condition over the course of the race, because some guys can feel it coming. I mean, depending on how you have your settings, even sometimes the way you set your force feedback in your wheel, even it can sometimes kind of tell you the way that the car goes, the way you can hear the in-car vibrations and even feel them through certain steering wheels. So some guys know better than others to see it coming as the tires start to go, but some other guys, it can sneak up on you, and if it does, then you put yourself at risk of a spin kind of out of nowhere, and that's the last thing one of these guys want when you're going for positions late in an important championship race, is to have something like that happen entirely, or almost entirely, out of your control. One guy who has really rolled with the punches, hasn't had too much trouble at this point in the race, and having a little bit of stuttering, but hopefully that is temporary, is Mr. Tim Salvatore, who, let's put up the lap time comparison between himself and Trevor Anderson. He currently sits in third, and though Trevor was making up time there on laps 21 and 22, the last 3 laps they have stayed almost dead even. So about, give or take about 3.5 seconds the gap from Salvatore to Anderson, which granted is quite a bit, but again, with only 10 laps left in this race, that remains about less than 20 minutes, but still a considerable amount of time. So, there's plenty of time there for Trevor Anderson to find the pace that he had in qualifying that put him third on the grid ahead of Tim, and maybe use that to work his way back to the third spot, get one of his many podiums this season. But again, I talked about it earlier. Tim Salvatore, who had a great start to the season, fell off a little bit in the middle of the year. Not that he was bad, it was just he wasn't getting those top consistent podium appearances like he was earlier. And then that pole at Iowa, it looked like it was going to turn things around. Unfortunately, some bad circumstances in that race with some issues with slight quirks in iRacing system, let's say, the way that they assign penalties, meant that he was out of the contention for that race and never got to work that podium that pole into a race podium, or maybe even a race win. So this could be a really big comeback for him. I mean, the 91 car has, again, been quick all season, but he's been quick tonight. And this isn't even one of those situations where I think he's here just because he's survived, though he has done that. We've barely seen a single mistake from the 91 car. But even more so than that, I think it's just that he's just quick, and he's finding more and more pace later and later in the season, and we're starting to see that early season Tim Salvatore again. And though, based on points, I think we can almost mathematically guarantee, I don't think he'll factor into the championship battle at all. I think, with this race, I think Logan is making it very clear that the only way he's not finishing the championship on top is if he starts making some mistakes later in the season, if he has some races where he full-on can't finish. I think that's the only way that we see Logan having enough troubles to hold him out of the championship. And I don't think Tim Salvatore will be close enough to capitalize, but man, he's doing his very best. And if he can rattle off some podiums late in the season and maybe even get that debut win, that despite his, I think, 7 top 5s, 4 podiums, he doesn't have that win yet. So that would be huge for him late in the season. He's got Spa next week to do it. He's got potentially tonight if we see a mistake from Logan or Andrew, and then Gateway and Laguna Seca to round off the season. So still plenty of opportunities for Tim, but it would be big for him if he's not only able to get tonight's podium, but able to get a win before the end of the season.
And going back to when Andrew spun, the talk about was going back to Andrew's spin. About 6 laps ago, he was 7 seconds behind of Pacza then after the spin, and now he's almost lost about 6 seconds in the last 6 laps. So that, and I think, had a lot of effect on the tire wear, because that's one thing with the tires with these city pros, or how with spins or anything, or when you lock up, you can really feel that it's unforgivable with the tire wear, but some things happen because he lost 6 seconds in 6 laps.
Yeah, it must be something like that, because again, as you say, Jack, you mentioned it earlier in the broadcast, but Andrew is one of the premier drivers in this series. He's one of the guys more so than anybody else that you can rely on each given week to be one of the top 2 fastest guys, the other being Logan Pacza. So we know he's got the pace, and he's still quicker than almost anybody else on track, but you're right. He just hasn't had that speed we were seeing in the first start of the stint and in that beginning of the race portion where him and Logan were going back and forth every lap. We had a great lead battle, and now all of a sudden that Logan has found all that time he hasn't. And this is very telling, because look here at the lap time comparison between Andrew and Tim. I was too focused on the gap between Logan and Andrew, but look at this gap. So this is Andrew's last 5 lap times. He's getting quicker. So whatever damage he had before, he's figured it out. I think he's learned how to drive with whatever conditions the car is sitting in right now. But Tim has been faster the last 5 laps, let alone the battle between Logan and Andrew. So I think unless Logan makes a mistake, win number 8 is in the cards, and that's incredible to say, because in a championship that has had so much parity, we've seen so many drivers making big names for themselves this season that maybe hadn't in the past. If they were guys from the Karts To Computer series I ran before, maybe made a new name for themselves, or some of the debut drivers like Tim Salvatore was a rookie this season. Same with Tanner Dignard. He's had some great performances, and Trevor Anderson as well. So some of these guys that got added to the series were such a big, important part and made such strong, statements at the very beginning of the season. And Andrew, who, made his debut last year in the Karts To Computer Season 2 series, he was a big name. He finished, I think, 2nd overall in the championship, but that was with the playoff standings. So to come into this season where we didn't have our playoffs, I saw somebody in the chat actually ask that. Just to clarify, yeah, we're a 15 race calendar. This is round 12 later in the season, and it's an overall points tally, so we don't do like a championship format. It's just if you have the most points at the end of the season, you are the winner. He's done great this season, but he's going to have to pull together some points in this last race. Still having some quick dropout issues. That's kind of a throwback. We haven't had an internet issue in this series in quite a while. But Andrew Bedrossian, he's doing his best, but I think at this point, if I'm him, I almost say, okay, lock it down, go for the points. You can still compete with Logan after this. If you can just pull away with second place points, it'll be about a 65-70 point gap. But double points at Laguna Seca. Remember, that's going to be so key. And with a very tough road course next week at Spa, and then Gateway the week after at an oval, and the ovals are always so random. There's so much that can still happen in the championship. So if I'm him, I say, okay, lock it down. 15 seconds now is a lot to make up to Logan Pacza, especially Logan Pacza. So with 6 laps to go, maybe not the most realistic thing to have that happen. But again, you can still lose that spot behind you. So I say if you're Andrew Bedrossian, he may not be happy with it, with how quick he was at the beginning and getting the pole once again. But if he can just stay ahead of Tim with the car that is presumably broken in that number 5 entry to this point, I think it's a job well done for him, and I think it's something that he'll be proud of going forward. So I'll throw it to you, Jack, as we wait for... we're going to keep an eye on the interval here, maybe see if Trevor can close up to Tim in the closing laps of this race. But, I mean, you're a driver that I think you said that you were going to race the remainder of this season, or at least most of the races left in the calendar. So with the 3 races we have left, we go to Spa-Francorchamps next week, which is kind of the second of a double header of iconic F1 races. Of course, Silverstone and iconic circuit to the F1 circles. Great save there from Tim Salvatore. Kind of lost the back end there through the final turn. But yeah, an iconic track in F1 circles, both Silverstone and Spa. We go to Spa next week. We go to Gateway the week after for our final oval of the season. It's going to be another night race, and it's going to be one with 2 oval corners that are differently shaped than one another. So Gateway, a really unique track. And then our season finale, double points at Laguna Seca. So from your perspective as a driver, what tracks are you looking forward to the next couple weeks? And do you think that maybe your opportunity to get your first, top 5 of the season and get your best result that you've had so far?
Yeah, I'm hoping to get the race I'm most excited for is Spa next weekend, because of all the elevation change and all the different corners and straights in it. It's a long track with a lot of different elements in it, which I'm excited for. Spa is a track I'm good at, and then Gateway is. I'm hoping to get at least a top 10. And with Spa next weekend, I'm aiming for a top 7. I'm hoping for, because it's really easy to spin there. Because the curbs are unforgiving, and then Laguna Seca, I just want to have a good race to finish off this amazing season.
Awesome. Well, that's always the hope, is just to finish the season off on a high note. Is really what I'd imagine any driver would be hoping for, is to have their best results of the season towards the end when the championship is really winding down. But one guy I want to talk about here who, I think he had his peak of the season, or maybe not his peak, because that suggests that he's going to go only downhill from here, because I don't think he will. Because one guy that has shown a constant improvement in this series is Mr. Caleb Campbell. We go on board with him now, and Tonight has been a relatively quiet night from the 11 car. I mean, he usually was able to make it out to practice the rest of the season. He didn't come out this week. He did to one race. But maybe just didn't have the practice time he needed as compared to how quick he was at something like Iowa or many of the other road courses this season. Almost got a podium earlier this year at Detroit. But as Trevor Anderson, one of your lead lap drivers, one of your guys battling for a championship here, is going to head by. But yeah, Caleb has just had a great season to this point. And again, he got his podium at Iowa a couple weeks back, which was the highlight, absolutely, of his season, because he was just so great there. Came so close to the win, in fact. If the last couple laps had turned out a little bit differently, maybe that would have been how it ended. But man, going to come away with 9th place points tonight is going to keep him in the championship fight. And I mean, looking at the championship order, he could relatively finish as high up as like a 7th, maybe even a 6th, like somewhere in there. And I mean, a 6th, it isn't one of the top 5 spots, but you think about the guys holding down those top 5 spots. Like you got Logan Pacza, absolutely dominant in this series. He's got like a karting background. He's going to go on to do great things in the real life karting world at such a young age. Same with Andrew Bedrossian, who I think he's 19. He's already in university going to a program for something else, but he's somebody that I think in the iRacing circles is going to make noise for a long time, is going to have a great presence. Then Tim Salvatore is also involved in the virtual racing side of things, and he's involved in the real-life karting world. Trevor Anderson, again, I know he's had some experience in real-life racing, but he's also been great on iRacing. Him and I have worked together many times, and well, I say many times. We were partners this year in the Daytona 24, so like I've worked with all these guys. I know how quick they are. So to be 6th in a championship as competitive as this one is at the top of the order would be incredible. So 9th place points is going to help him. It's going to help solidify him in the championship. And if Caleb can get a win there, even at Gateway to round off the season, or at least another podium like he had at Iowa at our last night oval, Caleb could have a really good end of the season, and I'm really excited to see if he can. I know he's got a great showing in the chat. Shout out to all the Caleb Campbell fans here. We've had plenty all season, and tonight we've just had an absolute dominant group with them. Excited to see everybody as excited as they are. So thank you guys for watching, all of you that support Caleb, and I know Caleb really appreciates, and it's well deserved, because one of the nicest guys in the field. Whenever I talk to him in the practice races, he's always willing to get better, willing to learn. Trevor Anderson is off track. I'll go back to this in just a moment, but Trevor Anderson off track at the exit to Maggots and Beckett. So with that, gets it back on track late in the race on older tires. Trevor Anderson, man, gets it back on with time to spare, but is gonna, I think, have to settle for 4th. I mean, I'll leave it to you, Jack. Maybe you think there's the chance that Tim makes a similar mistake, but I mean, maybe with what you've known of Tim, with what you've seen of them this season, do you think he's the type of guy that would make a mistake this late in the race that might give Trevor his podium back, or do you think this is pretty much how we're going to see the top 5 at the end of tonight's race?
Yeah, it all depends on what happens with tires, but I think that anything can happen between the top 2 with Andrew and Tim, but I think that's how it's going to end. If you look at the gaps, they're pretty far between the top 5. So besides the Andrew and Tim, I don't think that anything will change. But yeah, if Tim's tires lose, then he spins it, or if Andrew spins it, or Logan spins it and hits the wall or anything, then it can be anyone, but I think that is going to end like this.
Yeah, and I mean, we always hope, don't we, that we're going to get something late in the race, and never that way. We never want it to be somebody spinning that gives somebody else the spot. But I think this Andrew and Tim battle, if it happens, would be really interesting, because as you alluded to, probably the only one left on track that could viably happen, unless David Pax is able to reel in Tanner Dignard a little bit more. And I'm going to talk about some of those guys in just a moment before Logan very soon takes the white flag in just about a lap and a half. But yeah, I mean, Tim is in the background. You can see in this shot with Andrew Bedrossian, you can see the number 91 car doing his best to chase him down. But we can throw up the lap times again. I think Andrew is going to be able to hold on to that car to the very end, and I'm so impressed that if he does have damage that is giving him trouble, that he's kept in it as much as he has. I mean, Tim made up a second that last time by. Tim is just absolutely flying right now. You got to think that lap that Tim's running, it's not even like Andrew's off the pace. Tim has just been really fast. Like he's been great all night. He's going to deserve this 3rd if he can hold on to the final podium spot. He's actually keeping pace with Logan, which is impressive. I know Logan's probably backing off a little bit, just going for the points, but man, great race from Tim Salvatore. But yeah, I mean, Andrew is coasting at home, and it's been really impressive to watch that if he does indeed have that damage giving him trouble, that he hasn't followed the fate of a guy like Trevor Anderson, who made that one little slip up there at Maggots and Beckett's that that put him around and put his race at risk. Of course, he was able to recover quickly, but I'm really just impressed with anybody in the top 4 here. All 4 of these guys have had very different races, but they've all led them to the same spot, and 4 championship contenders taking the top 4 spots, minus, I think, Max Preston, who was doing just as well, but I think left because of a tech issue. So we have some really, really good drivers at the top of our series, and I can't yet guarantee what the series is going to look like going forward. I know that the big thing I've been throwing around is a summer series, something to the equivalent of this. Once the karting season ends, or as soon as it ends, we go directly into a kind of a sequel to this series, and we get something going through the summer, maybe the Heat Wave open wheel racing series for the summer season with new graphics, maybe a full-time side commentator, whether it be yourself, Jack, or somebody else, and updated graphics, updated everything. I got big plans I want to try out for the future, and just know that this series, if you enjoy what we're watching here, maybe if this is your first broadcast, well, chances are support Caleb. If it's your first broadcast, I really hope you stick around, because bigger and better things are going to happen later on in this on this channel and future series. And this is the 3rd one I've ever put on. They've, at least in my opinion, got bigger and better and more polished. So hopefully that continues going forward. But yeah, we are going to have some great drivers in our series going forward, and this season's been incredible. I can't wait to race some of these guys more and more in the future and meet some of them in person, because so many of them are through the Hamilton Canadian Mini Indy track that I personally raced at. Logan Pacza has just taken the white flag right as I went to talk about his dad. So 1 lap to go here for the number 16 car, en route to what will likely be his 8th win of the season. Great campaign for Logan Pacza so far. But yeah, really looking forward to meeting some, maybe some of you guys watching who I've never seen on the track, but maybe I'll get to meet in real life. I do come out to the Canadian Mini Indy probably every Saturday once the Rookie Series season starts. I don't have the funds to get into pro karting, 4-stroke or 2-stroke, but you'll see me on the rookie side of things. So feel free to come out on Saturdays, probably schedule 3. Feel free to come out and say hi, or the drivers. I haven't met some of these guys in the series. I mean, you talk about guys like I've never met Andrew Bedrossian, but of course he lives in the States. Tim Salvatore, who runs through the track. Max Preston, I've never met in person, and yourself, Jack. So I really look forward to meeting a lot of those guys from this walk of life. And I think one thing that this series has done, rather than just give people the opportunity to watch the drivers at home, which of course has been the case for you guys, and I'm so glad you guys are able to watch some of your favorite drivers. Carl Dronke has gone out of the session late in the race, so Tanner Dignard will take over 5th. He is going to get his, I believe, 3rd top 5 of the season. Great finish to the race for Tanner Dignard. But again, I love that this series is not only able to give these guys an opportunity to race, you guys an opportunity to watch at home, but it gives an opportunity during a time of COVID where everybody's very separate to bring people together. But as we come to the end of the race, we got to talk about this guy, Logan Pacza, your championship leader. From the very first race, he won to start the season at Roval. He's won 7 times to this point, and out of the final turn in our F1 Vintage Honors Night, in the Turl entry from the 80s of F1, one of the oldest cars on the track from the 80s, takes the 0 out, gets his 8th win of the season. Logan Pacza wins at Legacy Silverstone for win number 8, and really, if there was any way to try to guarantee himself a championship, he couldn't do much better than that. Congratulations to Logan Pacza on coming away with the win, and we'll go to his celebrations in just a moment. But this is not over. The final turn. Can he hold them off? Andrew Bedrossian out of the final turn. He had to do some recovering. He went down and was not able to stay up there with Logan Pacza. One mistake took him out of the fight for the win. But now he'll settle for 2nd. Great job there from Andrew Bedrossian. And for the first time in a couple weeks, the 91 car, the Race Sim Canada car of Tim Salvatore, back on the podium in 3rd spot. Trevor Anderson, who was so close to a podium early in the race, maybe even more depending on how that lead battle went, will settle for 4th. The 25 car comes home 4th. And David Pacza out of nowhere. I went to talk about him a moment ago and then just got caught up in other things. But David Pacza, who's, he comes out to every practice, one of the most, consistent appearances in this series, and it's something I really respect. A guy who puts a lot of time into this series. It was a very tumultuous race. He had a lot of incidents ahead to get through, but he fought through, stayed on track, and that Legacy Renault livery is going to come through the final few corners. Jack, I will throw it to you as we bring home the final driver in the top 5. Just kind of go over what you've seen in tonight's race, and was this Silverstone race all that you were hoping it would be before we started?
Yeah, it would have been nice to see a big battle between Andrew and Tim on the final lap, because with anything, it's do or die with that. It's either you get the 2nd or you get the 3rd, which could be what counts for the standings and the final standing.
Right, it's late in the season, these get more and more important. And again, I agree. I think that would have been really interesting to see that battle form up, because we haven't seen too much of Andrew and Tim as a combination in the past. So unfortunately, well, not unfortunately for Andrew was able to keep the car on track, keep it running quick, and was able to stay ahead of Tim there to the very end, although not by much. 1 second. Tim definitely closed the gap there to the end. But, well, before we go to the post-race show, we got to do some interviews, we got to do some final standings, and some, maybe not anything else, but we got to let you know where to find us next week, because we go to Spa-Francorchamps for round number 13 of the series. So we'll give you guys all the details on that very soon. But there in the background is your race winner, Mr. Logan Pacza. So we got to go cover his donuts, and we have a special graphic we play when we have a race winner. There we go. And no, we don't, because we don't have the footage synced up properly. That's my fault. No, we're not, but we can play some background music at the very minimum. There you go. There's some music for you. And we will wait as Logan Pacza gets to do his victory donuts. There we go. Gonna watch them in all their glory. I always show the wonderful victory celebration from whoever happens to have one. I know Logan used to, in the original Karts To Computers series days, he used to be known for his very exciting celebrations, including in one race at a dirt track, riding the wall around the dirt track. He rode the fence all the way around and sideways as a celebration. So as his donuts, always the best at donuts. It's one of the things that I pride him on, because one of the very few aspects of racing that I don't think he takes away from his karting abilities, because, well, you don't often get a chance to do donuts in karting, or at least I've never been to like a major karting event, but I don't think that's how they work. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong in that front. But if any of you at home are good friends of Logan and are experienced fans of shifter karting, do you guys want to let me know if you guys if karts ever do donuts when they win big tournaments or big events? I've never seen it, but that doesn't mean it's not real. So there you go. That's your chat question of the night, is do karts do donuts at karting events after they win? So there you go. I'll throw that to you guys. But first, before we get into your interviews and your post-race show, let's first go over your final results. Logan Pacza, for the 8th time this season in a relatively dominant fashion, but it wasn't going to look like that at the very beginning. Andrew Bedrossian really pushed him to the limits there in the first 20 laps, and until the pit cycle, where things just kind of split up, and from there Andrew made that one mistake that put the end to his fight for the win. But so competitive was Logan and Andrew to that point in the race, and we had a great battle. So I hope for those of you that come for the racing, maybe not even to necessarily see a driver, I hope that was enough to salivate your racing instincts for the night. And I hope we see a great sequel to it next week. A very hungry Andrew Bedrossian, I'd imagine, will go for his second win of the season at Spa-Francorchamps. But Andrew did finish in second place, taking as many points as he possibly could in his championship fight with Logan Pacza. Is going to do his very best to get a win next week at Spa and really put Logan on the defensive coming into the final two races. But Tim Salvatore gets podium number 3 on the season. 3, I believe, maybe even 4. Tim has had a great year to this point, but we haven't seen him on the podium in a while. Very close to second, almost caught up to Andrew there at the very end, but going to have to settle for third. And I think he'll settle for that very gladly. Tim Salvatore, great race tonight. Trevor Anderson will come home 4th in the number 25 car, so that's 37 seconds back there. But man, he was sitting 3rd there for the very beginning of the race. He had the potential, if something went wrong for the top 2, he could have thrown his name in the hat there at the end, but unfortunately just didn't quite get the luck, and he will have to settle for 4th. Finally, David Pacza rounds out the top 5, and what a great race for David. I mean, overall, he just stayed on track. He was the final guy in the lead lap, and with how tough this track proved to be on the new tire model, the new slicker tire settings, as well as the track being very hot, meaning it was more slippery, he rolled out the punches, and as a result, he comes home 5th. So Pacza rounds out the top 5 on both ends. Finally, for me, Tanner Dignard will finish in 6th, the first driver a lap down in 55th, or in the 55 car, I should say, not in the 55th position. And I will leave it to you, Jack, to round out the rest of the grid. Hey, Jack, you still got me?
Yep, my headset just got unplugged.
Oh, no worries. We are at 7th on the grid. You want to round out the rest of the final results for tonight?
And then it's Caleb Campbell with who is a lap down. Call who Wonky, who just did I guess had internet issues. Who left right at the end. Then Max Preston and then Rich Flino and Justin Lewick, who both disconnected after that one crash, and then Manuel Guerra, who decided not to start.
Right you are, and that will round off tonight's grid. Yeah, unfortunately, the Manuel wasn't able to make it out tonight. He's involved in quite a few championship battles, and Justin leaving there at the beginning, I saw that he'd had an incident with Carl Dronke, so we will, as always, look over that. Vince Ball, our race director, will be the one to go to in regards to assigning, what happens in the series going forward as a result, but we do have a system to deal with those things. But he will finish in, as you said, 12th, tied with Rich Foligno in terms of laps, but man, Rich Foligno, I one of these days, he's going to get that win, and he's come so close so many times, and it's just happenstance things. Like, you saw earlier at the beginning of the race, if you were here, that spin from Carl Dronke that just tangled up Rich Foligno, and there was nowhere to go for him. He didn't really have anything else he could do, so the poor guy comes home again with an 11th place result, and as we come to the end of the season, not quite as much time as he had at the start of the year, but I still think that Rich Foligno, one of those guys that will come home with a podium sooner rather than later. So that'll round off your final results for tonight's race. And maybe if it's your first broadcast, it looks like we have some new faces to tonight's race. We got a great viewer count there in the middle of the race. So thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate it so much, and we've had some great feedback there throughout the rest of the race. And I'm really glad that I was able to figure out the issues there for Caleb, or for Jack there, and we were able to get your sound figured out. So in the end, I think we finished the race better than we started it. But now is the part where, now that the race is done, we go to your interviews. And your first interview of the night is with a guy that, well, has had a great year and has had a great number of podiums, a great number of top fives, but I haven't talked to him in the booth in a long time. So we will pull Tim Salvatore in just a moment for the first interview of the night. Hey, Tim, it's Marshall in the broadcast booth. You got me?
I got you, Marshall.
Awesome. Well, first of all, welcome back, Tim. It was an incredible race for you, man, and you've had a great season at this point. You're one of those guys that's locked in the battle there for that final top 3 spot, and with Trevor and Max's issues tonight and their misfortunes, you really capitalized well. You'll take the most points of any of them, and your battle for that third place in the final championship results is not over. Just, from the beginning of the race, it was going to be clear that Logan and Andrew were going to be the guys to beat. They had a great battle up there up front, and Trevor wasn't too far behind. But over the course of the race, you seem to find more and more speed. And once Trevor made that one mistake that gave you third, you never looked back and almost caught Andrew as well. So were you figuring something out over the course of the race? You seem more and more comfortable with the track as you went on. And is there some truth to that statement? Were you figuring something out over the course of the event?
There's a lot of truth to that. I was just getting, like you said, just way more comfortable with the car, tire, and track. So I was just pushing it a little bit more and more every lap I was going. I mean, I was just talking in the race chat there that, I mean, my laps that I was doing throughout the race were close to a second a lap quicker than my qualifying lap, and that my qualifying lap was the quickest lap I'd done all week too. So it was definitely getting quicker, more comfortable as the race went on. A few more laps, and I think I would have had Andrew. I mean, that was a little bit of a strategy that I caught up to him, but I mean the pace was pretty true. Not on Logan's level or not on Andrew's level with fresh tires, but I think I finished actually where my pace showed.
Yeah, without a doubt, and no, there's absolutely truth to that. I think with maybe 2 more laps, even you were going to get Andrew. He was having some sort of issue there with the car later in the race, so not sure what that would have been. But yeah, you were finding the pace. You were getting him every lap, and you found so much time. And I was so impressed that there at the end we were both hoping for a battle, both Jack and I. But again, you come out of tonight getting some great points and great momentum, and I mean, thinking about the races you've done at so well this year, looking back, I mean, I can't personally remember. You had a podium there at Mossport. I'm trying to remember where else you scored a podium this season, but is there some discipline in this calendar that with the Indy Pro Car you found success at, and is there a track that's kind of similar to those circumstances in the final 3 races of our season?
I think it's definitely like the big Grand Prix circuits that I'm pretty quick at. Like Monza was my other podium there, Monza, and then obviously Mossport, and then now here at Silverstone. It's kind of, there's a trend there that it's kind of like the F1 tracks or almost F1 tracks. Mossport used to be on the calendar many moons ago. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like it was pretty fun at the end of the race there, tracking down Andrew. It was, so just to fill you into that, was a different strategy. He ran his pit stop. He did not take tires, and I did. Wow. So yeah, he was definitely struggling for grip, and there was a little bit of a period in there where the grip came back for him, and we were running similar times, and then it kind of fell off a cliff again. And yeah, like I said, like I think I finished like what, 1 second or 1.1 seconds back of him.
Yeah.
So yeah, cut down 8 seconds in 15 laps, which was it was a lot of fun to do it.
I can imagine. Yeah, it's got to be thrilling to see a top championship guy like Andrew just getting closer and closer. And yeah, interesting call there. I had no idea that was the case. So it didn't, unfortunately, I think, work out overall for him, but it was a bold move on his part. But yeah, you stayed locked in on strategy. There was really no flaws in your race tonight, and that's more than can be said for even some of the guys that finished ahead of you. Again, Andrew had his own issues, but came away with second. So it was a great performance overall. It was one of those overall well-rounded performances that you've kind of become known for in this series that have put you in the podium multiple times this year. And as you mentioned, those big, wide F1 Grand Prix circuits, we go to one again next week at Spa-Francorchamps. I mean, I know I believe you've said in the past that you know the F1 side of things quite well, so I assume you're familiar, as most drivers are, with Spa-Francorchamps, and are you expecting that we could maybe see a follow-up to your all-around great performance tonight next week at Spa?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It was really tight there. I mean, in qualifying, and then again in the race between Justin, Max, Rich, and I. Just I was kind of commenting after the race finished with the guys that it would have been really awesome that if everyone could have stayed out of the wall or anything and stayed damage free, so we all could have battled, because I mean our qualifying times were within a tenth, and Max and I were having a really good battle there and a lot of fun. So it kind of sucked that we couldn't battle for the entire race, because I mean that's a lot of fun. But I mean, in the same respect, it was also a lot of fun to track Andrew down. Next week at Spa, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, it's a really fun track. Who doesn't love going through Eau Rouge and Raidillon and all the corners there? It's a really fun track. Produces some great racing, and I think it'll be a lot of, like I said, looking forward to next week.
As am I, and I can't wait to see if you can follow this one up. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning, you're getting close there in points. You're definitely in the battle there for that third spot in the championship, and a great performance at Spa with 3 rounds to go, including double points at Laguna Seca. There's still plenty of time for you to do it, so best of luck going forward, Tim. And as we always do, it's been a few weeks since it's happened, but again, this is your opportunity to give some shout-outs to some people, talk about some sponsors, and this is just your time in the interview to do whatever you'd like.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for putting the series on. Can't wait for next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm not sure how Laguna Seca is going to go. I've never been really great there, but yeah, looking forward to it, and thanks again.
Awesome. As always, happy to put together races when they turn out as well as this, and yeah, really looking forward to the rest of the calendar going forward, and I'm glad to hear that you're feeling good about Spa. So have a great rest of your season, Tim. Congratulations again on the third place tonight. It was very well deserved, and it was very, very hard to earn tonight, as we saw at Silverstone, a very slippery track. So congrats, Tim. Have a great rest of your week. We will see you maybe at practice next week, but at the very minimum, for round number 13 at Spa next Friday.
See you.
Awesome. See you then. And with that, that'll cap off your first interview of the night with Mr. Tim Salvatore. Again, as he clarified for me, his third podium of the season, which again is, I think, probably going to tie him for third or fourth most. I think Max might have 4, but certainly, speaking of Max, a guy that was definitely going to compete for one. He came very close if it hadn't been for that late race, fairly mid-race troubles he had there with, I assume, tech stuff with VR. So Max, if you're in the chat, feel free to clarify that, because I would feel really bad if that's what it was. I'm sure I'll talk to him before next week's race. But in the meantime, before we get to that and we figure out what happened to him, first we got to go to your second interview of the night. We're going to have this one with Jack Hillier. So Jack is going to phone up Mr. Andrew Bedrossian. Let's get him in the booth and interview your second place finisher. Andrew is now in the booth.
Hey Andrew, you got me?
Yes, sir. Sure.
With the spin you had, that cost the ended up costing the race. Did that have any effect on the tire or thing that you could feel with your lap times?
Oh yeah, I mean, I didn't take tires in the first place, just trying to make up time on Logan, make the undercut work. But I mean, yeah, that pretty much cost me the win. But I mean, we had him, but yeah, I mean, slipped away. But we're gonna try to get him next week at Spa.
Were you nervous at all, getting ready to have to get ready to block if Tim was catching up to you? Like, were you afraid that he was going to?
Yeah, it did cross my mind. The tires did start to really go at like within the last 5 laps of the race. But yeah, I mean, he definitely would have caught me if we had one more lap to go. So, I mean, yeah, his car was lighter, he had better tires. So, yeah, I mean, I was definitely prepared to block just the way I was blocking Logan.
Next weekend is Spa. Are you better at like the longer Grand Prix tracks, and what race are you most excited for coming up?
Yeah, I'm pretty good at the F1 tracks. Very familiar with them. But yeah, it's gonna really consist basically of what I did tonight. I mean, with the long straightaways, trying to break the draft, and just force the car behind to go the long way around. But yeah, like it's gonna be a really, really exciting race, really fast speeds, and it'll make for some really great racing.
Well, congrats on your second place, and hopefully you can get the win next weekend, or finish off this season with a win.
All right, thank you, Jack.
No problem. Good luck. Good luck next weekend going on.
Awesome, and that was our second interview of the night with Mr. Andrew Bedrossian coming home in second place. Yeah, he's a guy that I know probably not going to be super happy with his final performance with how quick he was there with Logan, but, well, Jack, you know as well as I that if there's any two guys that can create a good battle, especially for the championship at the end of the season, it's going to be Logan and Andrew. So I really look forward to seeing how they do at Spa. But for the final time tonight, it's the 8th time he's been the final interview of the night this season. He does it so often that it's kind of become his thing, second nature for him. Mr. Logan Pacza is back in the booth. Let's pull him in momentarily for your final interview of the night. Hey, Logan, it's Marshall in the booth. You got me?
I gotcha.
Awesome. Well, first of all, Logan, I no matter what the scenario, no matter how tough of a battle you have at the beginning of the race, you always find a way to do it. You come home again, win number 8 on the season, top 5 number 10. You're the most in the series in both categories. You got more wins than the rest of the field combined. It's been an incredible season to this point, and in the battle at the beginning, it was worthy of a win like this. Do you just kind of want to talk us through that battle with Andrew? Were you comfortable running side by side with him? Did you think you were taking risks there? And in the end, was it a bit of a relief off your shoulders once you were able to get by him once he made a mistake?
Well, I think from an outside view, that battle definitely looked very aggressive. You know, we were taking lots of risks. In my head, I wasn't battling him because I needed to pass him. I was battling him just so I could keep him where he was. Little looks in the corners would get him to block, you know? Just trying to stay near him to make sure that he's always right in front of my bumper.
Yeah, and more so, I think, than anybody else in the series, you guys just have that sort of trust I've seen build up over the course of, 2 seasons and various series, because you guys are right on each other every race, and it's great to see, but it almost becomes worrying after a while, because you think, okay, well, you're battling there for the championship in first, Andrew's in second. You just worry what the outcome of something like that would be, and I mean, at that point in the race, you seem to be super comfortable there by the end. I know Andrew didn't take tires and had grip problems, but did you find the track, once you got used to the new tire compounds where it's a little bit slicker, did you find that once you were out of that battle, it was hard to adjust to just running on your own? Or were you just kind of smooth sailing there once Andrew, after the pit cycle, went around there early?
I think I had run enough laps in the condition the track was in that I was fairly used to the way the car handled once again. I believe that they have essentially made the Indy Pro a USF 2000 with slightly more power. Like as you said, very slick tire compound compared to what we had a couple weeks ago. But no, I think that I've finally gotten used to it. I don't necessarily enjoy it as much as I would have, but there's definitely a familiarity there now.
And that's good because, the last thing you want is for it to be unpredictable from week to week and have it so that you don't know what grip level you're going to have at any given track. We always run the same setup at the road courses, so the last thing you want is unpredictability. But there was no unpredictability in your race tonight. I mean, from the get-go, Andrew may have taken the pole, but you won the war in the end in that sense. So you come away with the win. Win number 8 on the season. If there was anything you could do for your championship battle tonight, this was it. And I mean, the championship battle is still up in the air. You're not out of the water quite yet. You got 3 races to go, including the double points at Laguna. I'll talk about if you want to talk about Spa as well. Spa is going to be a very important race next week. A long racetrack, a tricky racetrack. You got an oval, and then you got Laguna Seca. Laguna is one I know can give some people troubles. You've won there in the past, and then Max and Andrew had the battle to the finish there in the last season of the Karts To Computers series. So if that's where you're going to more than likely have to defend your title is at Laguna Seca, is that a track you think suits your ability to defend for the title? And are you thinking of good things if that's where it comes down to the championship?
Well, to start off, Spa will most likely play out similarly to tonight, simply because of the length of the straightaways. You will find that if you make a small mistake in a corner, it won't really matter too much, right? And then we come to Laguna. It's very technical, not too much room for error. I know that in I think a couple years ago, they repaved and sort of resurfaced the track, so there's more runoff now. But in the slightly older version that iRacing contains, it's just a little bit of curb and then you go off into the sand, right? So there'll be little room for error, but I'll try my best not to make any errors. Defending there's interesting. It's a lot of cutting distance, more or less. I'm skeptical going into that one, but yeah, it should be a fun rest of the season.
Awesome, that's the hope, and really at this point, the last thing you want is to get involved in an incident and go around that way. So as long as you can avoid that, I think you're gonna have a very hungry Andrew Bedrossian, of course, trying to chase you down for the title as always. But I think you're in a comfortable spot, provided you can just keep it on track and keep it steady. And you did so tonight. As competitive as that battle was with Andrew, you came out of it clean, and in the end, it was smooth sailing to the win. So congratulations as always, Logan. Win number 8 on the year. And this is your opportunity as always. You're more than familiar with it, and more than familiar, as I said, being the last guy to do it on any given night. So is there any shout-outs you want to give to anybody you want to thank at home, and any sponsors you want to mention?
Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone that's, watched this stream. I'd like to thank Prime Power Team and Trevor Wickens for all the support they've given me the last 3 years. I'd like to thank Special Interest Auto for sponsoring us this year, and I would like to thank you, Marshall, for putting this thing together.
Well, thank you so much, Logan. It is always a pleasure. Yeah, it's so good to host these things every week at races like this. And again, as I always say, you're the reason they happen. You're our champion for a reason. You're the guy that pushes everybody to their limits. And again, your family, as always tonight, supporting in the chat. So it's a pleasure to have you and your whole family with us. I know your real life karting season's coming up very soon, so best of luck when that rolls around with your opening testing and stuff for that. And well, at least for the time being, I will see you next Friday for round number 13, where you try to put the championship, as I've said multiple times tonight, on ice and put it to bed with another win. And until then, I will see you maybe at practice next week. But have a great rest of your week, man. I'll see you next Friday. And that was the final interview of the night with Mr. Logan Pacza, race winner for the 8th time this season, still your points leader heading into Spa-Francorchamps. And, well, still seems just as threatening as ever, I'd imagine, if you're any other driver in this series. It was going to be a tough ask to take Logan's spot tonight, and Andrew did his very best. I want to give a quick shout-out again to him, who had a great race overall. I want to give a shout-out to Max Preston, who, for, well, not the first time first time this season, unfortunately. He's had VR problems a lot in the past, but tech issues just seem to be giving Max trouble. And well, he's had the pace and he's had the driving ability of somebody who could be battling for a title, but unfortunately his tech just not always agree with him. So I don't know, maybe we'll start like buy Max a new VR cable foundation or something like that in the future, because the poor guy, I just want to see him finish every race. But until then, there are your final results once again. I'm not going to go over them once again as I usually do, because we're going to head off momentarily. But first, Jack, you've come to the end of your first broadcast, or your first full time sitting here in the co-commentary booth. Before we head off, what was it like? Did you have a good time here stepping in on co-commentary? And just talk about how you're feeling for the rest of your on-track season going forward in the Snowstorm series.
Yeah, it was good because I'm hoping to do something involving commentating in the future. So this was some good practice. I enjoyed it, especially with you here, and with how good with the battles and everything. It was a good race, good broadcast. I'm hoping to do possibly one more, either at Gateway. Probably at Gateway, because I'm good at Spa and Laguna Seca, but
awesome.
I'm hoping to next series do split time between doing broadcast and on track.
Great. Well, the offer is there for you, man, especially at Gateway. It's going to be, I'd imagine, a crazy race. We'll get Mr. Michael Krobach back in, hopefully, for his final race of the season. We always tend to get a better turnout for the ovals, so we'll have a lot to call. So to have another guy alongside me in the booth would be awesome. So the offer's definitely there, Jack. It was a pleasure to have you on tonight. You did a great job for your very first time, certainly more comfortable than I was in a similar spot just a couple years ago. So hopefully, just the same way I'm hoping for a long career in broadcasting, I wish the same for you if that's where you wish to pursue. So thank you so much, Jack, tonight. It was an absolute pleasure to have you. Best of luck next week from a driver's perspective at Spa. It'll be great to see you on the other side, and I'll be sure to give you plenty of coverage there, because well, you've more than earned it tonight, and you always provide a great part to the series. You're one of the best spoken guys. You're one of the friendliest guys in the track, and it was a pleasure to get to talk to you in more depth tonight in the booth. So congratulations, Jack, on making your debut with us tonight. Can't wait to see how many times we'll have you in the future, but there's always a spot for you, man. You did a great job tonight, and just have a great rest of your week going forward, man, before we sign off.
I will do, Marshall. Thank you.
And with that, that'll bring us to the end of tonight's broadcast. For myself, Jack Hillier this time. Usually I just say myself and the whole crew, but that is just me. But this time it was two. So congratulations, Jack, again on your first win. Your first time in the broadcast booth. Congratulations to Logan Pacza on the first win. Congrats to Tim Salvatore on getting back on the podium. Congrats to go around for everybody. So for the 12th round of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series season here at the Silverstone circuit. Until next Friday at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit for our 13th round of the season. Thank you all so much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. It was a great turnout in the YouTube side of things tonight. It was great to see you all. So many comments, and they're so fun to read. And thank you all for your feedback. So until next week, have a great rest of your week, everybody. We will see you all next Friday at Spa. And for now, have a great rest of your middle of March. Bye, guys.